Here to all our distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Governor, Mr. Deputy Governor, we welcome you to a beautiful day. Very soon I'll come into the room to engage us. Remember when I interviewed for a bank, I went for an interview session and I was asked by the interviewer, whom I thought, was a good-looking man, so I was trying to package myself. He then asked, oh, tell me about yourself, where did you grow up? I said, oh, I grew up in Lagos. He says, oh, but I have your CV here. It says you spent your first 14 years in Ogun State. I was like, no, I grew up in Lagos State because, Lagos is beautiful. Lagos is everything and more. So I started to claim Lagos State. I'm going to come into the room right now to ask everyone or whoever is interested to please let us know your fondest memories of Lagos State. What is one thing that stands out for you here in Lagos State? I know this is your most exciting thing about Lagos State. What is one thing that you love about Lagos State? Because I love to be in Lagos State. Thank you very much. We'll have a roving mic, and we'll do that very quickly. We want to hear from you before we start the business of the day. Thank you for being here. Monday is indeed the assignment. So anyone wants to share their fondest memories of Lagos State or something exciting that makes Lagos State unique and stand out? I think there's a gentleman. Oh, great. Please tell us your name, the industry you're from, your organization, your designation as well. We want to know those that are in the room. Thank you.
Okay. The name is Dr. Peter Bankole. Grew up in Lagos Island, Popo Aguda precisely. And for me, it's about Fanti. I haven't seen much of it lately, but that's what makes Lagos tick. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your contribution. Anyone else wants to share something exciting, a fun memory, growing up in Lagos like me? Anybody at all? Please signify by raising your hand. Fun memories of Lagos. Okay, we have someone here. Okay.
My name is Chief Mrs. Taiwo, and there's a description. I call it Lagos, the spot everywhere.
Thank you very much, Chief Mrs. Taiwo. Anybody else?
Well, just so that you might know, I have a very interesting habit of taking the microphone to whomsoever I please. So the courtesy is in asking that you indicate, but and I'm sure you know what it's like when I get to you with the microphone and everybody's looking in your direction. You've just got to say something. Thank you very much.
Incidentally, I came to Lagos about 42 years ago.
Wow.
And I came to Lagos to study, to have an MBA at Unilag, so that I will not work in Lagos. Because the only way to get a computer job back in the day was in Lagos, and I didn't want to stay in Lagos. So after the MBA, I was planning to leave Lagos, and I'm still planning to leave Lagos.
42 years after. It says a lot about the environment that Lagos State provides. Thank you very much for sharing that story.
Thank you very much.
Sure. T Group MD for AIM Group, and the context 1886. That's over a century. So wow. I am fourth generation Nigerian.
Wow.
One thing I love, I grew up in Nigeria or even in Europe. So Lagos is equivalent to hustle, but the good hustle for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. I'm tempted to give you a Nigerian name and a Yoruba one at that. You have one. What's the name? Titi? Okay. I was going to say Adekumbi, but it's okay. Titi goes. Thank you very much for sharing that story.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your story.
In advance.
I came to Lagos 1980, and it's been a very interesting experience, challenging, but I would say that there's been significant growth in terms of all the aspects, from roads, from bridges, from homes, houses. And one thing that is distinct with Lagos is that Lagos remains a place to achieve your goals. And for me, I think I've done that very well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a testimony, and we are just excited about everything that we are all sharing. It just shows that Lagos is a fertile ground where dreams are birthed, where people can achieve as much as you are able to.
We'd like to hear your Lagos story, sir.
I'm Kennedy Lawansi. I chair one of the fintechs. I was born at Massey Street, Children's Hospital, over 60 years ago now. The uniqueness of Lagos is the drive that anybody who passes through Lagos, sucks. I think every Nigerian child needs to have a bit of Lagos. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think I will make this my last for now.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Honorable Ayotunde Akin Folari. I am a management consultant and a publisher. I've lived in Lagos for over 55 years. I've been in and out of Lagos. At the point I was an oil executive, I was taken to Ibadan. On the same salary, the same pay, but I didn't feel at home at Ibadan. Every weekend I am back in Lagos. I've been to Abuja, the same thing, the serenity or whatever, that's what I want. The hustling and bustling of Lagos, it makes a lot of difference. And for a city now that's about 25 million in population, Lagos is bigger than Belgium. Lagos is about 1/3 of France, it's about 1/3 of Britain, it's about 1/3 of Spain. I think a lot has been achieved in Lagos. And I want to see the day that Lagos will be given a special status. I wish the governor all the best and his dynamic team. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Oladide, thank you very much. I'm just a little, please hold on, sir, if I may ask, a little curiosity. Now we've heard of people's stories and their Lagos journey. We also now want to find out what you want to see. So the future of Lagos, what would you like to see in Lagos State? I mean, it's an interactive session and you're enablers in the room. We want to hear, what would you like to see from about 3-4 people? What would you like to see in the future of Lagos?
Is it okay if I'm number one?
Absolutely.
So a short while ago, I had an issue with a product I bought online. And I didn't know what to do. As usual, you don't know what to do. And someone said, speak to this gentleman, which I did reluctantly. But what shocked me was the fact that I got attention, I got repeat calls, and I got a refund for the product that I bought here in Lagos. And for me, this is the kind of Lagos I want to continue to see, because it was a refreshing feeling that nobody's going to get away with just taking what does not belong to them. That's my story and what I hope to see in the Lagos moving forward. What's your story and what do you hope to see? Can I see 1 or 2 hands before we go into the event proper? Again, I have this habit, and I might just walk to you. Okay.
Oh my God. Your Excellency, I think you just planned this coup for me. Well, Lagos, to me, is another state that evolving over time. And what I still want to see in Lagos is, I remember this song, Lagos State is a place for all. So I think the Lagos State must continue to be a state for all. I just don't want to embarrass the governor, but he gave me a surprise. I mean, when I was trying to get my CFO, and I got my CFO in less than 30 days. I think he deserves a round of applause for that, because it's not because he knows me, but it was later that I called him to thank him for that. I think if we can start doing things ordinary time and get things done on time, I think Lagos State will be there. Thank you very much.
The Lagos that we look forward to, the Lagos we are experiencing.
Well, we've heard from a lot of people that I will align my vision of Lagos with. Quite a number of them have said Lagos is a place wherein if you are absent for a couple of days, you look forward to coming back to Lagos for different reasons. The Lagos that I will now look up to will be a Lagos that has a roadmap towards meeting the hopes and aspirations of the diverse people from wherever they come to Lagos, and they will continue to meet those hopes and aspirations. Any roadmap that leads to that is the Lagos that I will look up to. I still have your microphone.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you all for your contributions. It does say something that you are passionate about Lagos State. You are interested in the future and the growth of Lagos State. Again, we thank you for being here.
And private sectors combine intellectual and other resources, more can be achieved. That's a quote from Gro Harlem Brundtland. This afternoon, the hosting of what we call an interactive session with you select business leaders who have consistently played active roles in shaping the administration's economic policy reforms, amongst others, is to further engage on the imperatives of driving key economic reforms that will put Nigeria back on a sustainable development trajectory. On the 29th of May, 2019, when this administration signed up to serve, one thing was made clear, and that is a commitment to change for good the lives of Lagosians, the economy of all, and the well-being of her citizens. As a matter of fact, even before then, there was a coming together of stakeholders to share the vision in order to ensure that from the get-go, in unison, we would bring and begin that journey of transformation into a state jointly owned by both the public and private sector. This is what makes the difference. And just like yesterday, today we gather to present to you what has been, what is, and what will be, with an action plan of renewed hope and greater Lagos rising. As you will also learn, focused attention will be on the quick wins in the areas of security, agriculture, our youth and their education, the creative industry, enhancing innovation, and the development of intellectual property. Just to point out a few of the speakers would bring these and many more to the fore today within the short space of time we have the privilege of your attention. Lagos is the center of excellence and indeed the economic capital of our great country, Nigeria. Lagos speaks for itself, and of a truth, Lagos calls out people, groups, corporations, and nations to taste and see how greatly she has been endowed both with natural resources, human capital, and most of all, a leadership that is able to pull together and create the right nexus for the dreams as well as the themes. Over the last 3 years, and still counting, we have watched a system that has birthed not only a convivial environment with a center, but one also that has truly affected positively the investment climate, the ease of doing business, and alignment with the focus on security, economy, and anti-corruption. Lagos prides itself with the recently launched light rail system, and our pride, the Lekki Deep Sea Port, which repositions us as the prime maritime hub of West and Central Africa. Naturally, and from what you will hear this afternoon, when public and private sectors combine intellectual and other resources, more can be achieved. Today, we will reiterate that we have got to move beyond the idea that the public and private sector are at odds. Government will lay the groundwork for private equity to productively invest in various things, for example, education. We have to be intentional in learning that it is a partnership and not a battle. Therefore, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, you have been with us long enough to be conversant with the theme's agenda, which I believe Mr. Governor will tell us as much as how far we have gone, all that we have achieved, and what the future holds with Greater Lagos Rising. Once again, permit me to reiterate that we are here today because we believe that we are past the point where the government or the private sector can solve all problems. It's about partnerships, and Lagos beckons because you have ample scope and you have capacity. You have been with us and you have played your part in various ways. Before I yield the floor to the facts and projections, the details and a glimpse of what the next 4 years will be, I must speak to the strengthening of the town and gown collaboration and the development of the necessary skill sets for the jobs of the future, and in addition, enhancing research and development capabilities. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next couple of hours of enriching ourselves, establishing our connections, and envisioning a state jointly committed to and owned by us, all of us stakeholders. And in 2023, we rise. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, he was elected governor of Lagos State on the platform of the All Progressive Congress, APC, with a commitment to poverty eradication and sustainable economic growth through infrastructure, renewal, and development. A diligent and hardworking team leader that is making Lagos Africa's model megacity and global economic and financial hub. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, for his opening remarks, please welcome Mr. Governor Babajide Olushola Sanwo-Olu.
Greater Lagos is rising, rising, rising. The Greater Lagos is rising. States in the world's most popular.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Thank you very much. We wanted to make it as brisk as possible, just business-like. Excellencies, distinguished guests, captains of industry, ladies and gentlemen. I think the MC, they've done part of our job for us. But we're excited and we're happy that we can call you within a very short while and you can join us at this very important interactive session. For the next 2-3 minutes, I'm probably just going to share with you some of the statistics that you know, but we too often forget. And at the end of the day, tie those statistics with the reason why we believe a renewed hope for Nigeria with a Greater Lagos Rising is the theme and the context in which we can indeed build a bigger nation for ourselves and a state that is functional for all. I'm sure we all know that even before the census that will come up later in the year, we usually toy that Lagos population is well over 20 million. 23, 22, 24, and this population has also been now confirmed by the population, by the number of PVCs and the registrations that we have seen INEC turn out. So indeed, we believe that the population of Lagos is closer to 25 million than 20. And it's a city-state that has almost all tribes of the country, over 300 tribes, that indeed they call Lagos homes. And in that whole contraption, Lagos represents less than 0.4% of the total landmass of our country. You know, Nigeria is 900 and something thousand kilometers. Lagos is under 4,000, 365,000. 3,560 or thereabout, you know, and so if you put that in context, and if you also remove the 1/3 water that you see just behind us here and all around Lagos. So indeed, it's just like a tiny little dot. The real land area is less than 0.27, you know, of which we have over 10% of the population of this country. The GDP of Lagos is clearly over 120 billion right now, so which makes it closer to 30% of the GDP of our country. And of course, the GDP is bigger than the GDP of Kenya, it's bigger than the GDP of Ghana, it's bigger than the GDP of Ivory Coast. And so you can see that indeed your city, your state, is in itself a big country that we're all just struggling, you know, to fit into. In terms of those GDP sizes, it will be 6th to 7th largest economy in Africa. People have toyed and said that, yes, our IGR is 50 billion, and I'm seeing some parties, trying to lay, some very, very wrong numbers and say, because they collect 51 billion. We're not even there yet. The size of this city, we need to double those numbers, right? So we're even still doing 50 and 60, we haven't stretched it at all. But so in all of those collections as well, the challenges that comes, with a bigger city like us, Even the amount of money it costs us to keep the city functional, resilient, the amount we spent to clear out, containers that fall on the road, to respond to emergencies, to respond to fire incidents, to go into Ogun State and rescue citizens and all of it, speaks to the reason why those IGRs have to go up. And some of you organized private sectors here, we need to be able to agree to team with us, and see how we grow those numbers very, very quick, so that we can indeed offer a lot more. And of course, that Lagos is home to headquarters of close to 70% of all large corporations in our country. It's the largest food basket in the entire sub-Saharan region, meaning that, we consume almost everything that comes in. But we're trying to take ourselves from that. Even if we cannot feed ourselves completely, at least let us be able to intervene and be able to attract investment in also how we get to feed this huge population. Of course, that Lagos is home to entertainment and technology hub, not only in Nigeria, but the entire African continent, which this industry now is inching close to about 5% of our GDP. Very recently, you saw a Lagosian, right? He grew up in Lagos here. He went to school here. He became the first female Grammy Award winner, and several others that you have seen. For us as a government, we continue to activate that sector. We continue to encourage that sector. We continue to definitely, see how we can help grow that sector even under, our team's agenda. And of course, looking at technology, right? Lagos continues to remain the tech startup in Africa. In the last year and a half, we've seen investment of over $1 billion, in tech startups alone. We're building hyperscale data center. We're building end-to-end, commercial scale-up data investment. We're doing 3,000 kilometers of it, about 2,800 of it, fiber, connectivity, ducts in the city, and all of the major telcos, have, a significant percentage, of their tele-density here in Lagos. Fitch also, rated us on all of our borrowing, a AAA, which is for the second year running. So what that tells us is that indeed, we're doing all of these things, knowing fully well that people are watching, and we're being held accountable, with even some of the finances, that we're projecting. But given the size, given the issues that we see, we know that Lagos can do a lot more, and we want to do a lot more. In terms of numbers, Lagos certainly will require about $8 billion to build only a climate resilient, infrastructure. We were at the COP27 in Egypt late last year, where we make a very strong case as to why, the entire world needs to listen to Lagos and need to support us to be able to develop, a very robust climate resilient infrastructure, because their inaction is going to cost us a lot more, and our attempt not to do it, has a larger consequence, within, our community. And we've done the numbers. We've given them all of the projects that can fit, into this resilient infrastructure, and we're taking it up to be able to work with them. Under our team's agenda, which has been our economic driving pillars in the last 3.5 years, which sort of also seek to push forward 25 years when we started with the 10-point agenda. We're just scaling it up, and we're identifying in critical areas what are the immediate needs of our citizens. In transportation and traffic management, we've intervened in almost 1,000 road projects, in the last 3.5 years. 650 sectional road rehabilitation, We've done palliative about 150 of them, and we've built new roads of about 125 kilometers. In our ferry service, which is also one of the ways in which we want to quickly move people from one part of the city to another, we've almost completed, our 17 ferry stations. About 7 of them have actually been completed, and we have intervened in procuring, ferry in the city. We're actually also expecting another set of about 25 ferries that would help be able to move people from one part of the city or the other. Of course, you know that we have intervened in all of the 3 public transportation, bus, the last mile, the medium capacity, and also the taxis. In total, we've intervened for about over 3,000, capacity in those areas, be it the high capacity buses, the medium capacity, the last mile, or the lag ride. While we're doing all of this is for us to be able to give our citizens choices as into what mean of public transportation they want to go, on with. And of course, that we're indeed excited or able to complete the first phase of our Blue Line, which is from Marina to Mile 2. The Honorable Minister sitting here is only just my Egbon. He created the template for that Blue Line rail infrastructure. And we're indeed happy that we cut the tape, even when he had the vision, to have started it, and we're happy that in the next 1 or 2 months, it should be fully operationalized, because what we're doing now is to ensure that everything, all the testing, that needs to happen is actually, an electric, rail infrastructure. So we need to be sure that, we've done proper wall off on all of the alignment so that we don't have fatality. We don't have people crossing, the rail track at any point, so that we don't have, people not understanding that this is not a diesel-fired engine. These are, electric-fired engine. And within the next 1 or 2 months, there will be a lot of stakeholder movement to understand how you need to embark and disembark in a rail infrastructure. But for us as a government, thank you very much. Minister himself is clapping, please join him. But for us as a government, is the red line that we are almost completing that is even a lot more interesting for us. The red line is bigger, is in a longer corridor. We conceived it too when I was in his cabinet. The red line was an easier sell for us, but the PDP government at that time did not even allow us to touch that rail corridor. It was the old rail corridor for all of you that have lived in Lagos for 40 years, 45 years, 35 years, from Oyingbo all the way, going towards Agbado. So we've retracted some of them. We're building 7 stations concurrently. We're building 4 bridges, concurrently on that rail track. And so we're excited that it should be ready, before April, and you can see our iconic station coming out in Ikeja. There's a building on top of it. By the time you get to Ikeja, you see a massive building on your right. It's not just a supermarket, it's a real, infrastructure. That will be the biggest terminal on the red line. And so all of these things are the things we promise. We promise an integrated urban mass transportation system where people can use either the rail infrastructure, the road infrastructure, or the waterways infrastructure, using a single, carry card solution where you can hop in and hop off, and be able, to transact and reduce journey time, because the whole idea is to reduce journey time, is to save money and to reduce, whatever traffic gridlock we have on our roads right now. Of course, Lagos was also the major negotiator and facilitator, at the completion of, of the Lekki Deep-Sea Port. When we came in, we signed, with the Chinese, a $670 million, dollar facility, which they promised us that in 2.5 years, they will deliver the port. We're happy that Mr. President himself came, to commission the port, and I think full operations will start, in the next 1 or 2 months or so, when all of the T's and I's, have been crossed. So what you begin to see is that you begin to see your city, being a lot more efficient, and understanding the role that it plays, in the economy of our country. And I think the final one to just mention under transportation is the all-famous 4th Mainland Bridge. A lot of my predecessors too, had mentioned Fourth Mainland Bridge. We're excited that in our time, we will see the Fourth Mainland Bridge. And the reason being that we've taken a very, very deep by first ensuring that we can do for them a viable, feasible viability and feasibility study, which has been completed and which has led to the process that we are on land, road is visible. We're at the stage where we're just finishing, very detailed engineering, design, and being able to go into groundbreaking very, very, very soon. And we're hoping and believing that right all the way will end up on Lagos-Ibadan Express Road, with the border of Ogun State. So that's like your own M25. And we believe it will completely, reduce journey time and ease out, Of course, we know that with our plans on, also we've gotten approval for the Lekki Airport. That corridor has been a corridor that has completed, but some people took him to court. We've been able to take them out of Lekki Airport to our citizens. On health, we're building a 2 acres. Just said that they gave back to him pediatric hospital. Also build a template where if another pandemic do happen, Africa and Nigeria, and indeed Lagos, can respond. So we're building an infectious disease lab in emergency. Is probably bigger than completed, space for an emergency containers drop off in Lagos almost, to enjoy, in your city. Give us opportunity to train most of them. Curriculum in all primary schools. And all of these intervention schools in our city. For us, that is classroom. And we've seen that there is to look at a lot of, we've given, and also knowledge, innovation, technology, enterprise. There's been several interventions, that we've just a major intervention, in that space. And we have a very detailed, well thought out 5-year Agric master plan. And in that plan, we're building the biggest, and hear this, the biggest market hub in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa, again, in Epe. Before the end of this year, we will commission part of it. It's a massive investment on food chain, and we're also creating areas where we can have feedlots, for the animal, sector of our businesses. And in all of this, we see 250 to 300,000 jobs being created directly, and indirectly. Suffice to say that in housing, we've done a lot of interventions. We've commissioned about 17 different housing projects. We've added close to over 4,000 housing stock into the city. As I begin to round up, because I want us to actually have, an interaction. I want us to have, a process where we give you time to ask us questions, and some of my colleagues, my brothers and sisters that will be joining us here, so that we all can have, the time to take forward some of the various ideas that we have. I can continue on entertainment, on security, on justice, but I'll keep it until when my bon, maybe ask me some very definite or direct questions for me to be able to answer them. For us, one of the things that we see, and which is why we have chosen this caliber, of discussants to come forward, is to look at the Lagos story, is to ask ourselves, with all of the people that are out there campaigning, and talking about taking Nigeria forward, is to ask them, where is their pedigree? Who are the people that they have led? Who are the people that have worked with them? Who are the people that they have created? What are they doing? Let everybody come out and show and raise the hands of people that indeed have worked with them. This is a Lagos story that I want all of you to see, to appreciate, and to know that if indeed your Lagos has taken you from where we used to be to where we are, we can do the same as well in our country, Nigeria. And that's why the renewed hope of Nigeria is critical for us, but we also believe that your Lagos, our Lagos, is rising. Thank you very much, and I will probably just take my seat. Am I going to sit? I should just sit down. Okay.
Please let's one more time applaud Mr. Governor, your opening speech. All right, so he'll just straight up take his seat because he's one of our discussants today. Ìgbéga ìpínlẹ̀ Èkó, àjùmọ̀ṣe gbogbo wa ni. It means Lagos's success and glory is everyone's contribution and everyone's input is required. So we thank you again for being here. Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We're moving on very quickly to the main reason we are here, which is a panel conversation. Right after the panel conversation, we'll take questions and answers from everyone in the room. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your questions thrown to our able discussants, distinguished men and women who will come up very shortly. But at this point, it's my honor to bring up the moderator for this stellar conversation, the distinguished chairman of Titan Bank. He is our moderator today. Please let's make welcome Mr. Tunde Lemo. Thank you very much, Mr. Tunde Lemo, for being here as our moderator. Coming up next to join him, I'll introduce him, but on a lighter note. When I was younger, when I heard BRT, I actually thought it meant Babatunde Raji Transport. Please let's make welcome the Honorable Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, to join this panel conversation. No, I know the meaning now. I know the meaning now. I know it's Bus Rapid Transit, but I used to think it was Babatunde Raji Transport. Thank you very much. A one-time governor of Lagos State who was an excellent governor. We're honored to have you here, sir. Joining this panel conversation, we have the SSA to Mr. President on Sustainable Development Goals. Please let's make welcome Princess Adejoke Orelope Adefulure, a one-time Deputy Governor of Lagos State. Thank you very much, ma'am, for gracing us today. We're delighted that you are here. Finally, and this is the last person joining the panel, last but definitely not the least, it's my honor to bring up the Director General Budget Office of the Federation, Mr. Ben Akabuezi. Thank you. A round of applause for him. At this point, it gives me great pleasure to now hand over to our able moderator to channel the conversation.
Thank you very much. Once again, Your Excellencies, you're welcome, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's 5 minutes to 3, and we do not intend to keep you here for so long, and because the Honorable Minister would also like to take his leave, we will start in earnest. We have listened to the Governor of Lagos State, the excellent themes agenda, the promise, and the milestones. Sir, please permit me to quickly have this short discussion. And then, of course, we will have a few questions from here, after which, of course, you will also have the liberty to ask your questions. All of that will wrap up within the 39 minutes remaining. Over to you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ben and I were wondering whether you said 3% or 3 minutes.
Oh, sorry, 3 minutes.
But we read it to mean 3 minutes.
3 minutes, so I beg your pardon.
I'm going to just go very quickly. And let me say that for those of us in Lagos, this is a real pleasant opportunity for me in particular to interface with you again and to perhaps just ask us to remain really unemotional, dispassionate, because we have choices to make in the next few days, not only for our businesses, but for our families and our livelihood. So, and it is to those choices, especially for those who may not. Now, last week, I was in Lagos, and I raised the issue of the capacity that it requires village to do this job. And I think having done it for 8 years, I can stand back and assess those who aspire to the job and make an informed decision about who is ready and who is not ready. I was of the view that the job always looks easy when you are looking at it from outside. or when you are just part of the train and you are not the one taking the decisions. It looks very easy. And let me remind all of you, Ben, Jide, Mrs. Shoson, and Dr. Lemo, all of us have found ourselves in government. But we came from Adefulere, pardon me. We came from the private sector. So we are not born here, and we will leave when we've done our time. So, but I raised the issue of capacity, and somebody really panicked, started producing skits about me, that I was arrested in Belgium on the same day, that I was playing God. Now, on reflection, it then dawned on me that, look, this person is really worried, and this is a PDP governorship candidate. He's really worried now. And the answer to criticisms is not to resort to God. It clearly demonstrates that you are losing the argument, first of all, and it's not to start producing skits. You will be governor and you will be criticized. So do you want to respond to criticism by producing skits or by issuing press releases? You get the job done. And that's what our governor has tried to do here. It's not an easy job. So it just raises the question of readiness. So you, the voters, be very, very observant. And when this is not about reality TV, it's about real lives and it's about real livelihoods. So just to clear that point and to say that at the beginning of the APC administration at the federal level, we campaigned about security and about the economy and about corruption. And I just want to remind all of us very quickly, because my time is severely, severely constrained, that in terms of security, first of all, let us remember the choices that avail us as we go in the next few days. All of the three other presidential candidates used to be under the umbrella in 2019 and before. So they may have broken up into fragments now. That is understandable. But they have one family home. And it was during their time, under their stewardship, that the chief law officer of Nigeria, our attorney general, was murdered without consequences. And I speak to security here. And these are choices. So if the chief law officer dies without consequences, then how safe are we? So those are the choices you have to make. Of course, in Lagos, the governor has talked about his emergency response and all of the fire service, but this was the first state where you had a 767 emergency helpline in Nigeria. And those are backbones of security, because it's about lives and livelihood. Now, the other point to take about security is that the major problem we met at the federal level was insurgency and terrorism. Over 250-something children were kidnapped from a school in Chibok. Now, the government of the day, the attitude was first to deny that it did not happen. I hope you remember. Hello? So, those are the choices before you. They denied that it didn't happen. And before then, between 2010 and 2015, because it's easy to forget, the government of the day stopped holding public functions. National Day celebration, Labor Day celebration, and other things like that were held in the courtyard of the villa before we came. So, upon assumption of office, we confronted the Chibok girls' issues. And out of 276 that were kidnapped, 178 have returned. About 57 have escaped. So there's still work to do. But the choice you have to make is between one who denied the problem and one who confronted the problem and is trying to solve them. It's a choice to make. And as far as and there's so many other issues, but as far as the economy is concerned, we inherited aging, dilapidated, broken infrastructure. So right here today, even in this state, the major roads that connect Lagos, Lagos to Ibadan, Lagos to Badagry through Ogun, Lagos through Ikorodu to Shagamu, are all receiving attention. Those roads had no attention for 16 years. They are being attended to in half the time that it took the opposition to ignore them for 16 years. That is the choice before you. And we hear about production and all of that, and I say that I don't know any economy that produces without roads and bridges, that produces without ports. So you talked about the Lekki Free Zone, the Lekki Port. All of those were initiatives started by the APC government in Lagos State for national prosperity. The new airports being expanded, runways being built and expanded. The foundations now for a resurgent economy have been laid in 8 years. Half of the time, it took the opposition to ignore them. That is the choice before you. Do you want to go back to those who didn't attend to them, or do you want to trust those who have started the job? I will stop there, and hopefully I will be able to take a few more questions before I leave. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you very much for good use of time. Let me move down to Her Excellency, Princess Adejoke Orilope Adefulere, who will also give us some tidbits on 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, the progress attained, and the pathway forward. Your Excellency, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Your Excellencies, very distinguished invited guest. It's a pleasure having you around, and thank you for the support to the state government and the national government. Please recall that in 2015, precisely September 25, the President of Nigeria joined the world leaders, 179 world leaders, to adopt the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals. The SDG, known as Sustainable Development Goal, comes with one very important and robust 17 goals, 169 targets, and 230 key performance indicators. Broadly, it's a universal call to action to end poverty in all ramifications, safeguard our employment, and ensure that all people, irrespective of their gender status, enjoy peace and prosperity come 2030. And this agenda, to make it a reality, it comes with a whole of government and a whole of society approaches. Solidarity, participation, coordination of state actors, we that are here and some of you, and non-state actors, especially the organized private sector. Work with public sector, and also ensure that we mobilize resources for the implementation of SDGs. So in 2016, Nigeria became the first country among the member states to set up the private sector advisory group for SDGs. It was done in February 2017. And again, what is the role of the private sector in all of this? I said whole of government and whole of society. The private sector is to work with the government, the public sector, to ensure that we get all these things done at the right time, using the expertise of the private sector. Don't forget also that SDG is a successor of the MDGs that were adopted by Nigerian government during the administration of President Olusegun Obasanjo. We moved very fast during the Sustainable Development Goal. That office was created in 2016. Immediately the adoption was done. And we are to provide leadership, coordination, frameworks, monitoring and evaluations, and to report to the United Nations the progress made so far. Again, what do we do to fast track? This agenda of 17 goals and 3 dimensions. Goal 1 to 6 is social development. Goal 7 to 12 is economic development. Goals 13 to 17, and 3 other dimensions. Environmental dimension, strong institution, which is very key in all what we are doing, and especially the standalone goal 17, which is partnership for the goals. And the partnership for the goals really is very critical to the organized private sector, meaning that you have your goal to work with. And that was why Nigerian government became the first, identify the role of private sector, the capacity, the resource mobilization, and other participation that can come from the private sector. That made us inaugurated the Private Sector Advisory Group for SDGs. In 2017, before the close of the year, we are fortunate also to set up the Presidential Council on SDGs, chaired by Mr. President, with private sector representation, National Assembly, state governors, and other key state actors. And we also believe that the civil society organizations have a role to play. We set up that all the frameworks are set up between 2016 to 2019, before the close of first administration. Again, when the last administration came, this current administration came, we begin to look at how do we work together? How do we get this agenda workable for Nigerian people? Don't forget, Goal 16 talks about peace and strong institution, which is very key to all what we are doing. And the peace, without peace, there can be prosperity. And that's why we emphasize in working with the sub-national government where the problem lies. As I speak to you now, the ISDG model that we launched in 2019 with all our governors, Governor of Lagos was part of the launch, is a very strategic document that we use to integrate and domesticate SDG into sub-national government policy plan and programs. As we speak now, we're working on 22 states, Lagos inclusive, to get document domesticated, so that everything that we do, from budget preparation, budget implementation, budget analysis and reviews.
Thank you very much, madam. So much to say. Unfortunately, we don't have much time, but I'm sure during the Q&A, we'll be able to drop some more. You can see a consistency in what we have had so far. The governor started by talking about those superlative things happening in Lagos, and all of the people who have spoken are also Lagos-made. You can see the great things that we're expecting, the renewed hope. That most of the major leap that we're going to have is going to be powered by those who have been trained in Lagos State and by the candidate that we're expecting will carry the day. Mr. Ben Akabweze, you have been also in Lagos State and you are now at the federal government level working hard on fiscal and public finance management reform. So much has been done through TSA and so on and so forth. Now, please, can you lead us into what else has to be done? Because our eyes are on superlative growth performance of minimum of 7.5% going forward.
Well, thank you, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be here. As you rightly said, I was introduced to the public sector. His Excellency, Mr. Fashola stated earlier on that all of us here had our roots in the private sector. I was introduced to the public sector in Lagos State, starting from late into His Excellency Governor Tinubu's administration and through the 2 terms of Governor Fashola in Lagos. And then now. And so when it comes, since 2016, I've been working for the federal government as Director General Budget Office of the Federation. And so when it comes to public finance management, I have had significant exposure to that on both the subnational and at the national level. And unfortunately, and I say this with every sense of respect to the audience, this is an area that I think that is not quite well understood. And unfortunately, I think that the private sector would be well advised to take a greater interest in it and, understanding, the public finance management and being actively engaged at the policy level. In 2015, the federal government's budget was 4.4 trillion naira. The budget that has, recently been passed is a budget of over 1 trillion naira. I see a lot of commentary, people saying, oh, in dollar terms, it's not a significant, change and all of that. But the reality is that if you wanted to do a dollar rise comparison, you will have to use the purchasing power parity approach, not take exchange rate, oftentimes the other market exchange rate and just divide whatever. Essentially, the needs of government, growth in the population, but then the resources available to government have not grown comparatively. Because in 2016, when you look at the whole of government, both not the federal, the state, and the local government, all three tiers of government, we were at the target to get that to 15%, which we reckon is the minimum that we require. The World Bank actually recommends 20%, that a country requires, government requires revenues of about 20% of its GDP to be able to sustainably provide the goods and services that the people require. With the challenges over the past years, we have seen that number grow now to about 9%, still way short of the 15% that we're targeting. And therefore, that has also then resulted in a significant growth in debt, because not to do so will have actually, it's difficult to comprehend. But trust me, the truth is, without a significant debt, increase in debt, and that's not to take away or to diminish the concerns over that, but without it, this economy will be in a worse state than it currently is. And the Honorable Minister of Works and Housing talked about the infrastructure. Nigeria's infrastructure stock was only, excuse me, Nigeria's infrastructure stock 7 years ago was basically 20% of GDP. Today it is 35% of GDP. Countries require 70% infrastructure stock relative to their GDP for things to the right quality and quantity of infrastructure. So here again, we are a significant way off. But we will have been in a worse situation if we didn't make these choices. We're currently over 3%, a little over 3% in terms of GDP growth rate, with the population itself growing at close to 3%. At that level of GDP growth, the people will not feel like there is growth. You will need to double that growth rate at least for the people to begin to feel the growth
And that therefore has to, so when people debate the issues of, oh, is it realistic to grow the GDP to 7% given where you are today, that's not the right question. That's not the right conversation that we should be having. It is simply an existential issue. We must get double the level of GDP growth. So the discussion, the conversation we should be having is, how do we achieve that? And to deliver that, it takes not just action from the public sector, but also the private sector. The 2021 National Development Plan 2021 to 2025 envisages over the next years, thereabout, that we would require public investment in the order of 350 trillion naira and public investment. And that it's only about 50 trillion of that is projected to come from government. The rest of it needs to come from the private sector. So the discussion we should be having, the conversation should be, what more does government need to do to enable the private sector weigh in to that degree? Because without that, we will not see the growth levels that we require. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Governor, I will come back to you in a moment because I don't know when the Honorable Minister will step out. Sir, you are my chairman, you are my supervising minister, being the chairman of FEMA. And I know so much you have done on road network and all of that. You see, a lot of people are bemoaning our circumstances and they're saying GDP is not growing, when indeed they were not looking at the counterfactual. If we were not having so much of road development, road construction, even the GDP we are talking about today, we would not have. Can you please expatiate, sir, on how those efforts, Second Niger Bridge and so on and so forth, have added to our GDP in terms of employment and so on and so forth?
Thank you very much. My chairman, who says I supervise him, you are independent. Now, very quickly, and I think I want to take it from GDP, infrastructure, and growth. And I've always asked myself, why are Nigerians, and indeed people from other parts of the world, migrating in large numbers to other parts of the world? What we call here the Japa syndrome. Is it because of the food? Hello? Is it because of the language? Is it because of the weather? Certainly it can be, but one thing that sticks out to me, and I hope I'm not wrong, is that the infrastructure, the quality of infrastructure and how it affects the quality of life is a defining factor. And so that's where I need to start. So when I hear one of the candidates say, oh, they are just building infrastructure, they are not building the economy. Infrastructure builds the economy and builds the quality of life. And that's what we're doing. So let us use real life situations to dimension this thing. And one is the Apapa Oworoshoki Oshodi Expressway. Now, what did it used to be like in 2015? What does it look like now? And what is the turnaround and the travel time? And of course, for those who leave the state, take the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. It used to be a day or two's journey to cover 127 kilometers. That can be efficient for business. It can be efficient for livelihood. It can be efficient for quality of life. Now, it is running at about 2 hours on the average, and it is still not finished. That is the difference. But beyond the travel time, the business, there is the economy of infrastructure that perhaps we haven't discussed enough. So let me start from the Second Niger Bridge. One component of the Second Niger Bridge, construction alone, is 19 million liters of diesel. That's what it's going to take, and it has taken, to construct that bridge. Now, those are people's businesses. So the construction company doesn't make diesel. It subcontracts it. You will see across your roads today that as you travel from state to state, you will begin to see highway signs. We call them route assurance signs that tell you how many kilometers you have traveled and how many is left. They were not there in 2015. But each sign is a job. Each sign is a business for a subcontractor. And those businesses are thriving. And you will see now lane marking, and a subsector of the economy that we were not even playing with is thriving. So without that infrastructure contract, those subcomponents won't happen. But let me share some numbers with you, and I think that they will dimension things in graphic terms. So in 2014, major components of construction include sand, laterite, and granite. So in 2014, let me use 2015. In 2015, there were 228 sand dredging companies licensed by the Ministry of Solid Mines and Steel. 228. By 2022, they had become 302. For those mining and quarrying granite, they were 335 in 2015. They had become 655. And for those quarrying laterite, which is the base of any road, they were 132 in 2015. They had more than doubled, essentially, to 259 in 2022. But the story doesn't end there. That's just the quarrying side. Then there's the transportation of quarry. So you will see NURTW, NATO, truck owners, because each quarry job is a trip. And then you see the employment of drivers. And this is how it happens. So if you go back to our GDP results quarterly, if you go to the sectoral performances, you will see that these are the sectors that have been doing well. From transport, quarrying, and mining, and the petroleum sector, because infrastructure investment drives it. And this is how money is distributed around an economy. I need not even now tell you.
This is in central Lagos, the central part of Lagos. What are you doing to harvest when things begin to happen? Because we trust you and we know you deliver on your promise.
Well, I'm out. On this side of Lagos, which is actually the west side of Lagos, from Marina to Mile 2, Phase 1. Just this morning, I mean, you saw us doing the presentation that we've also approved the construction for the Phase 2, which takes it all the way to Okokomaiko. Okokomaiko is going outside, to the West African, international corridor, which is the western part of into that place. We've had the second. There's also another university of education at the Janiki is deliberate. That's number 2. Number 3, we've also gotten approval for the Badagry port. After the Lekki port, we're also going to the private sector do the Badagry port. It's also the western part, of the city. So deliberately and consciously, we're pushing, investment and economy into that plan. One of the restrictions in that part is because of the tininess of Lagos. When you get to Agbara, you have entered Ogun State. You need to leave it again to enter Lagos State. We know that they are the only neighbor we have. We actually want to develop into Ogun State, but they are not allowing us. We actually want to. Looking at our bodies of water, and we're trying to kilometer of Atlantic Ocean shoreline that we have. If you go to the eastern part is going towards Epe. That is, I'm sure you know that the Ibejuleki-Epe corridor, that's actually where we have all of the free trade zone and all of it. But we're not stopping at that. The Lekki port is closer to Epe. We're doing the development next week for the film city is in Epe. That's why we're doing it. We're doing the development and the construction for the biggest food market that I talked about is in Kechirin, is in Epe. We're doing the development for the biggest film city is in Epe. We're doing several, the hospital I talked about as well, the psychiatric mental hospital is also there. Also, the pop line goes from Lekki and it goes towards Epe. So deliberately, there is a plan, around decentralizing the center of the city so that growth and development is also not restricted. But we have water problem. You know, even on the Epe side too, by the time you move 2-3 kilometers, we will want to, because of also the natural, you know, inhibition, which is water that we have.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Indeed, what you are saying is that every part of Lagos, so that you can also seize that opportunity. And that's quite smart. A lot of people don't know that the Washington Airport Honorable Minister would like to take his leave now. I want to thank you on behalf of the business community and Lagos State for the time you have. I'll ask you one more question. Your Excellency, we know what COVID has done to Nigeria and the rest of us because it has slowed us down to ensure that we move pretty quickly to be able to do that. Given your vantage position, not just as Honorable Minister, but somebody who has also seen development from the sub-national level, can you just discuss with us what you believe is being done now and what will be done to work with him, not just as teaching at the federal level? I know very much that you already have so much in your head, much more to share with us.
Thank you very much. COVID was quite a monumental challenge. Sanwo-Olu does not get your vote for any other thing. He should get your vote for his response during COVID. We can only talk about business, a significant role, closing the borders, little actions that you take. So we also then set up an economic sustainability committee. I served in that committee. See how the impact of closure, it was a very, very delicate balance of that. We had, I think, a -6 growth, and we were one of the fastest, if not the fastest, to turn that with. Had little, if anything, to do with how they managed the economy in a negative way. The first recession was predicted by the outgoing government into a recession. Question was choices of policy position spent and growing the stock of infrastructure very well taken care of. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and I wish you a safe journey back to Abuja. Now, this program is for you. In another 5 minutes, this cap really fits you in the sense that you're a woman, and the question I'm going to ask you relates to women. The social inclusion has been recognized globally. I streamed this at the UN General Assembly of 2015.
Thank you so much. Going by the SDGs, you have been beginning to see the impact of accelerated SDG goals in all what we do, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of development, in terms of inclusion, and of course, yes, what we seem to achieve from structural renewal, that is what it seems to be, is just to accelerate development and boost economic growth, nothing more. And to benchmark ourselves, where are we in 5 years, where do we want to be in 2030? So we have been reaping the fruit of being a member state of United Nations Development Agenda, and so also to say that we have been having the private sector keying into this agenda by investing in public infrastructure. We can, the road from Apapa all the way to Oshoki is a private investment, and we want more of that. And just recently, about 2 months ago,
I really apologize for having to cut you, madam, but we would like to take a photograph before he leaves, and then we will take with the organizing committee, and then back to the question and answers.
Hey! Sanwo-Olu, the greater Lagos rising 2023.
Can I have on stage organization committee members as well? Can we please allow the Deputy Governor to join this photograph? Thank you very much.
So, very sorry for that. So we have been seeing the reflection of the SDG in the public and private participation. Just about 2 months ago, we want more participation. All of government and whole ways you can think of to go forward. SDG talk about gender equality. About 70% of our Nigerian women and the APC gubernatorial candidates that we are here to promote. He made me a commissioner during his second term as Commissioner for Women Affairs and Poverty Alleviation in 2003, and we are just 4 women. It has never happened before our emergence to be in cabinet, 4 women, 4 commissioners. And that commission, that being a commissioner for Women Affairs, I lobbied the gubernatorial, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I lobbied him to ensure that we have female deputy governors. I wrote the memo, I recall that I wrote the memo that where to whom much is given, much is expected. We are the voters, women are the voters. Every group, he agreed that I should communicate that to the party. We did not only communicate it to our own party, we sent to the PDP, sent to all political parties, and that was how a beneficiary of that. So to empower, and also at the local government level, I introduced more women to be at the chair of the local government and the vice chair of the local government, and even to introduce Ministry of Women Affairs at the local government, special advisor women, supervisor for women, supervisor for women. So we have more women in government when we're in Lagos, and they are still there, and the governor is...
Thank you very much.
The governor of Lagos State is one of the he or she that has supported women, and I think it should be it should be, should continue like that, voting for APC gubernatorial candidates. This is where Lagos is where things happen. Governor Sanwo-Olu, and under the leadership of gubernatorial development, so that in 2030 we will be near to our developmental goal. Thank you so much.
A round of applause for her. And of course, one of the female deputy governors, former female deputy governors is here, or 2. In fact, 2 of them are here, and they are clapping and they are smiling because they have been beneficiaries. Mr. Ben Akabweze, oftentimes it's not too high. And of course, you have also echoed that time and again. And you are quite right, because looking at the less than our comparators, most of us bridge that gap.
Conflicting. There's tax to GDP ratio, which you cited, but the number that I cited earlier was the revenue to GDP ratio, which then dividend that are not taxed, and that's therefore we're currently at about 9%, but even that 9% is clearly, that's not where we ought to be. And as I said earlier, even the World Bank number for the minimum that countries should target, that global target. And that's why we insist that that is the sustainable thing that we need to do to be able to get this economy functioning. You see, that's only one side of the picture. However, if you look at the public expenditure to GDP ratio also, 13% of GDP. Again, even the African average is about 22%, not to 10, for our people, the public goods and services government. And, there's, of course, a debt carrying capacity of government. Today, the limiting factor in terms of Nigeria's debt carrying capacity remains its revenues. On all other measures of, debt sustainability, we look good until you get to the debt service to revenue ratio, the relationship between our debt and the revenues. Since Nigeria's independence, we've had 5 global recessions. Each global recession is followed by, and that's empirical, by a growth in public debt. And the order has been over these 5 global recessions, it ranges from 6 to about 15% increase in, so if in 2 years, in over the last 6 to 7 years, we've got 2 recessions. It is inevitable that you will see significant growth in COVID-19 was probably of all of the 5 global recessions since Nigeria's independence, the impact on public debt post-COVID-19 was the most massive. And public debt as a ratio of GDP post-COVID-19 increased by 100%. Global, when you bring on we don't have enough revenues to be able to service that debt. And when you look at this, if you look at all of these countries, even in Africa, when you talk about tax, the tax, personal income taxes remain the most significant and sustainable stream of revenues for government to be funded. And for Nigeria, you talked about South Africa. I keep repeating these. In 2021, for instance, total personal income tax is collected, all of Nigeria. And unless we don't believe our GDP numbers, if our GDP is higher than theirs, there's a relationship. Most people are earning that revenue here. But the difference is that, in many of these places, the wealthier people, basically, contribute more significantly to this. But here, I think, that's not the case. And right. Well, you've got to do both. It's not an either-or case. You've got to drive tax compliance, which is, at the lower, even tax compliance, even by the people who are paying. It's one thing to pay, it's another thing to pay the appropriate amount, widen the net. And that's where Lagos State has, really led the pack and been a model. And I want to say to people as there, Lagos, I think that I've been in Lagos government, I've been at the government. Let's not take the efforts and the successes in Lagos for granted in terms of what the government in Lagos is doing to keep this place working. When we talk about GDP growth, if they had at least double that level, because that's the engine that is driving and pulling up this economy. There are parts of the country where the growth is negative. So when you have an average of 3% globally, it means that Lagos is doing at least double that rate. And we must sustain the structure that enables such growth in Lagos.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kabweze. Thank you. We have moved to the last segment. I know your time is very expensive. The 25 million people are waiting on Lagos State Governor to deliver value. We will not keep him for too long. So we are on the last segment now where we harvest questions from the audience. We have the roving mic, and please raise up your hands if you want to speak. And please, let's set the ground rules so that we can save time.
Here, however, if you'd like to come forward, there are also 2 standing mics here, so. Okay, sir.
It's more of contribution that plan and look at what you are doing. The danger of having an hostile government, when somebody comes in and you don't complete your tenure, the people will always tell you, I've experienced it, I've worked in government, and that is the danger. And what we are working on is to ensure that we work and get the presidency to work together with the state level. Because if you don't get the presidency right, we won't get the state right. So bandwagon effect. So we must all sit together and decide what we want. But I pray that the Lagosians will appreciate what has happened and try as much as possible to ensure that Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu goes for the second time.
Thank you.
Or else you're going to have problems.
Thank you, Mr. Ashiru. He's speaking on behalf of the business community in the entire Southwest State. That is the chairman of Odua Group. Thank you for your contribution. Yes.
So we'll take one from here, one from the other side. Okay. Do you want to come forward?
Okay, my name is Afolabi Ayela. I would like to find out from the governor, now that power has been moved from the exclusive list, what plans you have? Are we going to have another version of NERC for Lagos? I'm an IPP company, and so we'd like more information. Thank you.
My name is Yemi Olakiton. When His Excellency Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu was talking, he mentioned that Lagos State wants to develop into Ogun State, but the Ogun State government is not allowing them. I think he said something like that. But my question is, if you look at Ogun State and Lagos State, you find out that it's like negative and opposite. Infrastructure that we have in Lagos State, in Ogun State, what does it, because the two of them are just city.
The last question. There is Ogun Lagos Joint Development Commission, and they are working together. So they are not on different pages, please.
And I want to, first of all, congratulate the governor for the public sector to work together for our state to benefit. My question is this. Having been involved in a public and private sector partnership for 24 years in Lagos State. That's how old LIMJI is. One of the concerns is that what guarantee does governor give? It pains me, for example, to see in Lagos Island that all the things we did to clear the area boys, to clean the roads, to work together. We built Ajele Fire Station, and Shell contributed $2 million for it. I'm scared to go and visit the place now, because it's probably in tatters. It is important for us, just like in even your own home, to ensure that you keep what you already have, and nourish me. It concerns
that thrive in providing the necessary quality education. Thank you.
We'll take two more so that the governor can respond.
Okay. Good afternoon. Let me do this. I'm going to do the praise and worship. In New York City, I walked out of the subway and I saw the honorable governor, and I walked up to him and said, in Lagos. So in this moment, I want to acknowledge what you did, that humility you showed. On the street of New York, you've never met me before. So I came to be a part of the political, and I'm not leaving till March 11th. But the one thing that I've observed every time I come to Lagos is hair quality. Okay, there's a lot of, hair pollution. And connect trees, so it's called My Roots Lagos. Through that program, can actually create revenue, tree planting, and climate action. The organized private sector.
My name is Dr. Peter Bankole. Investment along the Lekki-Ekpe corridor. But as you rolled out all of this, including the likes of Dangote, what they are doing there, it scares me, because the turnaround from Lekki to my university today is about 5 to 6 hours. Now, if all of these investments come on mainstream, expected to live properly because of this traffic situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The government insight on the climate change that somebody has mentioned. Thank you. Your Excellency, sir.
Chairman of Odua, Mr. Ashiru. Mr. Folabi, so there's a Lagos Power Policy and Initiative, right, that we have designed. The Honorable Commissioner for Energy is here somewhere. Chairman, House Committee, fully concurrent like that. They need to get out of some regulation for us to be able to fully play in it. And the reason is, the two discos that are in Lagos, right, they're still pretty much under federal government. We have ownership, but we're still fighting ourselves as to who owns what, right? And IPPs, if you have a structure, can we increase to a 40 megahertz PPA, and be able to unbundle, all of the bottlenecks so that we can provide power to everyone. And so Lere is here, right? And we can take the conversation forward, and have a working agreement with yourselves. Yemi, thank you. Well, you ask, why can't we know it's going to they're subnational, right? So it's not that easy, right? They're the only neighbor we have, but we understand, you know, where those things are. They just don't, I mean, pass on. But we have a common agreement. So we have agreement on, so this is where we can do in-border, in and out, on security. You know, we will have an agreement on security, we have an agreement on some sort of fiscal planning. You know, so if you go to all the Mowe, you know, area and buffer, so we have some agreements, you know, with Ogun State. Lagos is it Ogun? So we usually like, have those conversations and just sort it out. Traffic management. You know, you'll see that a lot of times on the Long Bridge, right? Our last man go in there to, you know, and we're working, you know, to, where's Mr. Yemi? And we're working together on. But we cannot just say that because there is problem, you know, at Ota, they will now go and say that I want to sign and come and do a bridge or do a road. That's certainly not within our remit to do, and it doesn't work, you know, like that. But the ones that we can are some of the ones, you know, that I mentioned. If you have the major traffic issue where right is Limji, right, it's true. I know they're very passionate about the environment. I know all of the times I was a commissioner when you did this, you know, your issues are always with, you know, the area boys and the good boys. You know, how do we continue? You didn't have this level of population to mention individual states. For example, all of the street traders in Lagos, they are all from a particular state in the southeast state. In the north, turning into a political issue. Some of them, right, we need to be able to look for opportunities for them, need to be able to build, you know, what additional, you know, soft skills we can give them. And the ones that are just criminal-minded, we just need to be able to take them out, you know, give them medical attention, or just, you know, work with the Nigerian police and be able to be hard anytime. You don't need to call me. It's still very safe. Right. Thank you. But I know you are always very passionate about them. Professor Nance, unfortunately, you were not here when I give my opening remarks on education, and I can still roll out some of the statistics, right? On education is one of the areas that we're also, you know, humbly proud that we've done a lot of interventions. To date, like I said, we've built over 1,000 additional classrooms. We have seen a growth in registration and movement into our public schools. We have seen parents, we have seen guardians take, almost all of them have handheld tablets that we are working with, in which they have a single curriculum. If it's in Badagry, if it's in Lagos Island, they have a single curriculum in which we can monitor and we can also see what they're doing. You know, we're working with Bridge, which are one of the very successful stories that we have, you know, around there. So from early primary, from early schools, we're actually doing a lot of intervention. In terms of ones, what we're doing is curriculum redevelopment. You know, what are the environments in which, what are the learning tools that they have? How well are we also ensuring that we can give back to these teachers? We're the only ones year on year that we do a Teachers Appreciation Day. For the last 3-4 years, 13 or 14 get brand new cars as the best teacher in primary school, best teacher in secondary school, best teacher in junior or senior secondary, and it's been happening year on year. But the good news for us, which is one of the things I mentioned, our interventions, we are beginning to see the result. You know, Redeemed, I can see Pastor Pito there. There was a particular school to that, because that's one of the ways we can test it. Our WAEC result now in Lagos, Maths, English, and 5 credits, we're seeing it over 80%. The last WAEC result were actually 83%. So there's something good that we're doing, both in real infrastructure that you said. If you go to Elemoro, if you go to a regional school in the that's the level in which we're putting those infrastructure. But we're also ensuring that the teachers are well trained, they are motivated, and they have all of the tools to work with. So what we see, we're seeing influx into our public primary schools and secondary school, people now coming in, you know, to increase, you know, those numbers. And you talked of incentive. I think maybe I need to just ask, you know, much more, what kind of incentive? Monitoring. We're seeing that it's even the private schools now that are giving us a lot more headache than our public schools. So we're sitting with them to ensure that rules are not just for one person. There are simple rules that all of them can comply with, you know, and we're saying to them that we don't want to unduly begin to say that we want to close down schools, because there's a need that you are feeding. Yeah, there's a need that you are meeting. So the idea is not that all of you will, but what are the minimum that you must have for you to be, a private school, in Lagos, and we're working with them, on that. But for us, in the public schools, we believe that we're actually also putting fiber in some of those schools now as we speak. And so you can test it, A lot of the schools now that we're completing, there are interactive boards that we have there. So people now actually are looking forward to going to schools. They are happy, coming to our schools. And we're seeing, an increment, an increase in enrollment, of our public schools. Thank you very much. I'm going to your university, but he also said that there's still that challenge, how do we get there quicker? And this is the solution. So what we did, Peter, right? 6 lanes from phase 2, which is you are turning left. And well, he's not even at Abraham Adesanya yet. What's that, before you get to Green Springs, what's that neighborhood now? If heavy relief before the rain starts in June, July. You can see, so what we see with the traffic is actually from VGC up onto, maybe Abraham Adesanya going towards Shogotedo. And it's also because of the road that we're doing on the regional road from VGC, and also the fuel queues that you see from that 1 or 2 petrol stations, before you get to VGC, and also petrol stations in front of VGC. So the tailback comes from petrol queues, right? And we've said to them, the contractor, the hands of the bridges are out already. Let them clear, the road. What we're trying to do is that we don't want to constrict the 2 lanes or the 3 lanes that you currently have. The plan is we want to expand it, but at least let us keep the 2 lanes that you have, currently. And you see that the road, alignment are coming out, right? And those are some of the things. It's just to bear with us. The huge development that has happened in that corridor. The Lekki to Ekpekpe corridor is the fastest, your statistics will show, is the fastest real estate development anywhere in Africa. And so it comes with consequence. And the consequence are that we want to, road, Ogodo, exactly. We're committed to improving Orchid Road. We've made announcement here about the 4th mainland. It's also starting from Aja. So all of these things are areas of, medium to long-term development that will eventually, ease out. Building roads that will last for more. She and I were together. We was even December 25th. All of the major fancy bodies came out, Tinubu Square, and we had fun for 2-3 hours. Exactly. So I need to hand you over to her, Dr. Fashawe. She's the head of. Thank you very much for. But one of the things I also mentioned in my opening comment is the pitch we made at the COP27 around climate, action, and where we went there prepared, to talk to operators, private initiators, and private, investors like yourself. And we said that Lagos is business ready. And we'll have a whole book. We have a whole deep book for it, in areas where we can collaborate. And we've also explained to them, the consequences of an inaction. Because of the coastline of Lagos, we're below the sea level and all of these things, we cannot fold our hands. We need help. I think those are the questions.
A round of applause for the governor. A round of applause. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
We can do ordinary last year, individual. When we are celebrating our birthday, let's play 5 times, 5. Then you have planted 25 trees every day. Please join the conversation, join the discussion to change the narrative for our collective aspirations. Government alone cannot do it. Like I said, we need to partner with government, do our own little bit. Planting a tree is not difficult, and I'm sure that if you ask for a tree from the government, they will provide one. If you cannot get, join the government to make sure that Lagos is a very beautiful place. Even if you're outside Lagos, join your state government where you work to ensure that we put this thing at bay, and we will look towards the 2030 agenda.
Thank you very much. Thank you, madam. God bless you. Yes.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to, Afolabi Ayala asked about an action in the aspect of it, about whether there will be a Lagos equivalent of NERC. I would only counsel against that. I've been involved with this over the last years. And the 2 discos in Lagos, Ejaneko are the most viable in the country. And you know, we are actually, you know, working towards moving them into just, the goal is for more bilateral power markets, not these situations where, so Lagos, I mean, most power projects will be viable, but I think the private sector has been a bit up in this area, looking for PPAs. That's easy, it makes it really easy. Just get one government, whatever, sign a PPA for you. So all your own is produce the power. So whether or not they subsequently sell the power, you get paid. That's easy. You walk into any bank, you get that finance easily. But it creates more problems. In the last, 6 years, 6 to 7 years, these PPAs that were signed, we've spent over ₦1 trillion, and that adds to this public debt that we all worry about. So for a Lagos, Lagos needs to move towards our markets. There's sufficient demand within, given its limited geographical, is also, I believe that, it should be, people should, investors in that sector should look beyond government for PPAs in developing their projects and not ask for more regulation. Leave neck. I think that's enough regulation than to be looking for local regulators. But imagine when we now have additional, if we ever have additional 36 regulators in the sector, or 37 plus, FCT, that's not going to be helpful to the Nigerian electricity sector industry.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Your Excellency, sir. Concluding remark.
And guests, I want to sincerely thank you. I think the Deputy Governor is still going to do the formal vote of thanks. But what I want to leave us with is, if you look around all the four of us that have been seated here in the last 2 hours now, there's been something that's outside being Nigerian and Lagosian, there's been something that is common to the four of us. The first thing is that we're all part of a cabinet between 1999 and 2007. We all came in at different times, but we were part of that government, all the four of us, in one capacity or the other. Thereafter, all the four of us, again, were part of the Lagos State Cabinet in one form or the other. Somebody being a governor, somebody being... You cannot take away the Lagos success story without understanding what has been our pedigree, what has been our learning path, what has been our growth trajectory, and what continuity has birthed for that. But you can see that indeed the success story, as modest as we believe it is, and with humbling spirit that we believe that we can still do more, Lagos continue to remain as a driving force of our country. Lagos continue to be the rising shine of our country. And so the question we need to ask ourselves as we make the decision in the next couple of days is, what are the alternatives? What are the other things others are talking about? Nigeria cannot be an experimental trajectory. You cannot come into the highest leadership position of our country with people that do not have the experience, with people that have not worked it, or with people that cannot show who are the people that they have trained, who are the people that have worked with them, who are the people that they have grown, who are the leaders that they have built, who are the people that have learned the rope. Extremely very committed to say that if we're all using, soft things to say that somebody is not all right, is not looking well, is not powder his face, to determine who runs this country, I think we'll be doing a disservice. And that's why we brought the four of us here, to say to you that we're part of a pack. We've been part of the movement in which we've learned, we've grown, we've developed, and we still have energy to do double the effort of whatever it is that we have done now. And that's why we're pleading, and we're saying to you that each one of you have whatever it is that you stand for. And that's why we want you to reach them. and to say that Nigeria cannot be a trial and error. Not now, not at this moment, and for you to do the right thing. Renewed hope of Nigeria, tying it with a rising Lagos, we believe is a tag team that is made, that we can work with, that can build prosperity for you, the organized private sector, for all of the vulnerables in our society, that we can take our country to a level that will be really, really enviable. I want to wish you all the best. I need not say much. You know where my heart is. You know where our heart is. I just believe that you all do the right thing. Thank you very much.
Your Excellencies. Thank you very much, Your Excellencies. Distinguished guests, can we please applaud Mr. Governor, our moderator, and of course our distinguished panelists for an excellent job. Thank you. Close this ceremony. But it's my honor at this point to bring up the Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Dr. Kadri Obafemi Hamzat, for the vote of thanks. Right after the vote of thanks, we have canapes for everyone in the room, to the left and to the right side, behind at the cordoned off area. Please, let's enjoy ourselves. But before then, Mr. Deputy Governor will officially close the ceremony by thanking everyone in the room.
Okay, for the very small aside, because we will reward him with our votes. So as we do this, you know, democracy in the United States, where a member of House of Representatives actually lied about himself and he got elected. So if it happens there, it can happen anywhere. So I want to thank you for listening to government officials, telling us what they've done, so that we can make informed decisions. You know, the third president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, said, no nation will develop when the citizens are not well informed. And that's because you can't make the right decision when you don't have the right information, if we have the right people. So the choice is ours, and I'm sure we'll make the right decision. That right decision is to make sure that our children's children, we thank all of us for that decision. And that is by selecting the APC candidate and based on connectivity. So I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Governor. Again, we would like to thank every single one for your time on a Monday like this. Thank you for being here. And a fantastic week ahead. We have canapes for everyone. Please, to the left and to the back, right side of the room, we have canapes. If you would need any assistance, please talk to our hostesses. They are more than willing to direct you to where you would enjoy your canapes. Enjoy, network. Thank you for...